listening to this week's episode of Pre-Brawl, your prep show for the Tavern Brawl in Hearthstone, part of the Hearth Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Pre-Brawl, episode 9. My name is Christopher Puner, and I'm joined by the one, the only, the Hearthstone expert for this show himself, Aiden Frost Rock Arts.
That's me.
What's up,
Hi.
dude? Hi, hey.
I'm just playing some pre-brawl, dude.
Oh, yo, you mean Tavern Brawl?
Nah, it's called the pre-brawl.
You do this every single week.
I do.
So this week's pre-brawl is going to be covering a Tavern Brawl from weeks ago. I don't know why. That's weird. Why are we covering one that we've already covered? Oh, it's because Blizzard has repeated one that they've done in the past this week. There's no new Tavern Brawl for us to discuss. It's now we're into this area where they're repeating some popular ones, and the most popular one that they had in the past was, if you didn't already check and cheat, it's the Great Summoner Competition. And so for those of you that don't remember what the rule set is for the Great Summoner Competition and that specific Tavern Brawl, Frost is going to remind us real quick.
Yeah, so it's pretty well like you play your classic game of Hearthstone, you build your own deck, which is my favorite, but whenever you cast a spell, you get a minion of the same mana value, which is like cast right after the spell. So, I mean, no, wait, it's summoned before you cast the spell. So, I mean, if you use a Flame Strike and then you summon a 7 mana Velen from it, then you're going to get a 8 damage Flame Strike on their enemy board.
Yep. Stuff like that. So yeah, we already went over this in detail and we've talked about it. So if you want to hear us talk about the Tavern Brawl as if it were new and exciting and something we've never seen before, we would invite you to go listen to Pre-Brawl. It's episode 4 was the one that we did. We posted that a while ago, I think on the 8th of last month. If what I'm looking at is accurate, and it should be because it's the RSS feed. So that being said, though, we're still gonna talk this week about a few things. Two things in particular. One being what we think is going to be the case for next week, because we're getting awfully close to the grand tournament announcement and stuff like that, or release and stuff like that. And then secondly, what we think about Blizzard now going back and reusing. It's not even rehashing, they're just straight up reusing these Tavern Brawls. But before we get into what will probably be a longer conversation about Blizzard and their reuse of their own content and stuff like that, let's talk about what we think is going to be next week's Tavern Brawl Grand Tournament related. And Aiden already had some ideas, so I'm going to let him lay them out for you first.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had 2 pre-construct weeks in a row, this one in the past week. So next week, I believe that they're going to have a Grand Tournament pre-constructed deck game mode. So you're going to play whatever class you want, one of the 9, and then you're going to get their class cards, all cards from the new Grand Tournament. I don't know if I'm assuming they'll have to use some old cards. I mean, you can't really make a deck with like 130 cards, which half of them are class specific. But I mean, I think that you're going to be able to choose from one of the 9 classes, and you're going to get a bunch of new cards, and you can try them out before the game actually launches, which I think would be a lot of fun.
It'd be really cool if when they had who were the 2 people that they had play? It was
Trump and Amaz.
Oh, Amaz. Yeah. It'd be really, really cool if they just gave us those pre-constructed decks, and it was like the Deathwing Altharian thing, and you just got random to one of the 2 classes that they already made for that event. That would be really neat and super easy for them to do, and we would all be happy with that as it is. But I agree. I think it would be to their benefit to now, especially following their first week of repeating things, for it to be an exciting, new sort of unique event, probably self-promoting with the ground tournament stuff. It just kind of makes sense in the context of like their model and stuff for like the hype within their own games. You know, it makes the most sense. Yeah, it'd also be really, really cool if next week the pack that you can earn from winning one Tavern Brawl was a grand tournament pack that you can't open until it comes out.
Oh, that'd be actually that's a great business. That's a great marketing idea for them too.
It absolutely is, because you're like, oh well, shit, I already got this. I could just get 50 more if I or is it 50 for 40 or is it 60 for 50?
It's 50. 50 for 50. It's
50
usually 60.
for 50. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, so that'd be That'd be wicked cool. That'd be a good move. Blizzard, you should definitely do that. But let's say that they don't do my idea, which was Amaz and Trump's pre-constructed decks for the event. What sort of things do you think they would do? So let's do away with our two ideas, the two pre-constructed that I said, and then you having 9 class specific pre-constructed decks. What would be a fun event that they could do?
Like just any sort of idea that we have for this game mode?
Yeah, like what do you think could be? No, grand tournament related, of course. Cause let's assume that we're right, and then it's a promotional tool. What other sort of ideas do you think we could expect out of Blizzard? Because I understand, I recognize their sense of branding on their sort of stuff when I see it, you know, and so I can kind of guess. I'm not really surprised by stuff they do anymore. I more or less just like see them in their design choices, and so those two things that we said before are good ideas and viable, but I think there are a couple other options that are on the table that they could do. So I'm just curious what you think they could be, because I have a couple of ideas.
Well, the only thing that I could see them doing is like making, like, once again, it's like using the cards that are already in the grand tournament. But like, if you've ever played any of the wings of the Hearthstone expansions, you have there's some bosses who start with cards on the field. So I could honestly see them have like a class specific game mode where you start at like 5 mana or something. You already have these cards on the field with the Inspire mechanic, so you're kind of like almost forced to use the Inspire mechanic, which shows you how the new expansion is going to play out. Like, I could see them like almost giving you like a helping hand to use the new cards like that. But other than that, I'm not actually sure.
It'd be smart for them to do that, because then the Tavern Brawl would also serve as like a pseudo tutorial for the expansion.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. That'd be cool. I think well, the one thing that surrounds this expansion is that like a theme choice. Besides the setting being the tournament, but it focuses a lot on jousting. That's what it was in World of Warcraft as well. So I think it'd be kind of cool if they could probably have a setup of randomized decks. But you guys are just like under the guise of each other, jousting each other and stuff like that. Because there are a lot of cards that relate to that specific idea. I think they just released a couple of ones they just released, and I don't want to get too much into them because we are going to talk about specific cards on the Hearth at some point in time. The actual show, I think, probably either this week or the next. We might just wait until it's released and just talk about them all at once. But I think some sort of cool mechanic where like you're jousting their player would be a really, really, really neat thing to do. Although much more difficult to pull off than just giving us pre-constructed decks. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the bottom of my well of ideas. I can't really think of anything else. I would bet that it's one of the things we've talked about. And if not, then it's just going to be another boring Tavern Brawl week, and they'll do it the week after, you know? So.
But they still have a lot of ideas that they can use eventually. Like, my favorite concept that anyone's ever said to me is you build your opponent's deck. Or you build your own deck, but you get 15 cards from your opponents. So, I mean, do you put in shitty cards? Do you put in great cards? Because no matter what, you're going to mix your deck with your opponents, or you're going to give them your deck. Like, that's a great idea for a Tavern Brawl.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Switched 15 cards, so like you don't have your combo pieces, so you can't play combo decks. You might just build your deck all shitty, even though you're going to get 15 shitty cards. They're going to get 15 shitty cards. It's like a cool idea. I wish like they did stuff like that. Like, I'm sure they will in the future, but
I'm kind of excited. I mean, I'm a little disappointed this week because I know they said they were going to start reusing ideas eventually, especially revisiting old popular ideas. But I was, I mean, if not only for the sake of me playing the game, but also for the sake of like this discussion show that we have to set up to like tackle the Tavern Brawl stuff, I was kind of disappointed that it happened so soon. But I'm walking away positively thinking that it's because they're preparing for something great next week.
Well, I mean, like, I'm kind of excited for, like, a couple Tavern Brawls to return. For example, the Sunwell one, where you start at 10 mana. Like, I think we all, for the entire show, we talked about playing it like you play big minions, like you play as many big minions as you can. It's kind of like the person who spent so much money on the game, they play all their legendaries finally. But like, I started watching other videos of people playing it, and they started using like the classic Miracle Rogue decks, like using Gacha Sands and milling through your entire deck, getting the combo that you need. It's like, I wish like I could go back and talk about that one. So hopefully that comes back. I'd like to try out some different decks for stuff like something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to complain about them coming back. I think they're all fun to play, maybe with the exception of the web spinner one. I'm kind of burnt out on. Bananas. But banana. Do you have a preference between the banana and the spider one?
Oh, I like the banana one because you could use stuff like Mana Addict, and it was actually not bad.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, the spider one, I just didn't like the overwhelming sense of RNG that came into play. It was kind of frustrating.
Oh, wow.
I had 3 Gezrillas in that one game we played against each other, I think. But all right, so cool. These are the ideas that we have. But so how do you feel? What's like your actual opinion on them reusing these ideas? Now we kind of started talking about it a little bit, but like the question officially posed to you: do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? Do you think they need to have a bigger team assigned to Tavern Brawl? How popular do you think Tavern Brawl is? How much do you think it actually adds to the game? Yada yada. Like, what's your opinion on them repeating this stuff?
So I just previously mentioned that I would like the idea of building your opponent's deck as a Tavern Brawl, but for reusing them, I think they should have a twist on it. Honestly, like maybe like the first time you play, it's a constructed deck, right? Like the Sunwell one, but they gave you a deck. It's like this is what this is our idea. So then you start thinking like, oh, in a couple weeks, I'm gonna get to play this, but I get to build my own deck of it. And then a couple weeks later, you play it again, but now you get to build your opponent's deck for it. You know what I mean? Like, I would love trying all 3 of those different ones rather than just playing the same thing twice. Like, if they could add like simple little twists that would make the game really, really interesting, I think.
I would agree. Like the idea with the Tavern Brawl is supposed to be like, this is a game mode with a little twist, and it has the lifespan of 5 days where it's popular and fun. Then after that, nobody's really going to want to play it anymore, with the exception of a couple of them that are really outstanding, like Heart of the Sunwell. Like, that one's fun to play, but only for particular players. And then they just revisit this, and this is why it's a good model. And right, so if they just bring things back cookie cutter, the same carbon copy, it kind of defeats the spirit of that sort of thing. And like you're saying, yeah, we have no problem with them reusing these ideas and redoing the same thing over and over again, but if they change it a little bit so that there's something new to talk about, something new to think about, something new to strategize with, it makes it fun, and it keeps it in that same vein of what the purpose of Tavern Brawl is in the first place. So I mean, again, like I said, I'm a little frustrated, but at the same time, I get it. I really would love to see them have a larger design team assigned to Tavern Brawl, because I think it could be really great. I feel like it's missing a lot of infrastructure right now too. Like, not being able to save multiple decks for things like when you have pre-constructed stuff, that's really frustrating. But I don't know. It's just kind of, we're at their mercy, and it's a little frustrating.
Oh, well, I'm still gonna play a little bit of it, try a couple new decks, and I think I'll still have fun with it. Hopefully, they eventually get to the point where they want to put a little twist on them. I think that would be ideal for a large percentage of the player base. But either way, I'm happy.
Yeah, it seems fine to me too. So yeah, I don't think we really want to revisit anything about this week's Tavern Brawl. I mean, we already knew this was going to be a little bit shorter because we've already talked about this one in the past. Again, it's episode 4 if you guys want to go back and look at it, the pre-brawl, not the Hearth. But I mean, our consensus was at the end of that Tavern Brawl that Priest was the number 1 class to play because Mind Control is disgusting. Yeah. And I don't think that opinion has really changed since.
Yeah, it's pretty well play Priest or play Mage, because you have a 10 mana spell that's going to give you either. They're really good cards.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, yeah, I don't think there's anything really to revisit with this one. Do you have anything else to say about the Tavern Brawl before we move on, or anything about the stuff we've talked about?
Nothing really. I think we actually summarized it pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. I apologize. I know this is a shorter one, but again, it is a repeat week. We'll figure out a better way to kind of like approach these in the future as they happen. So, well, I mean, hopefully not next week. Hopefully it's an exciting one, like we were trying to foresee and predict. But until then, I think that's going to be it for this pre-brawl. Just a reminder, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Search for The Hearth Show on Twitter, and then just The Hearth on Facebook. And then if you'd like to support the show, like our 2 wonderful patrons, Andrew and Sargent, go to patreon.com/The Hearth. And you get some cool goodies, and you get like the actual main show 24 hours before anybody else does on that feed and stuff like that. And it's a really cool way to help support us in the show. And if you want to hear, if you guys missed it, I don't know how you could. I went to the same feed that this thing's on. If you guys saw and were excited about the new World of Warcraft expansion, like all of us are, even people that don't play World of Warcraft are in our community of friends, they were so excited because we were so excited. It just overflowed out of our hearts of joy into their eyes. And they were like, Legion. If you want to hear me and Matt just fanboy and then cover all the interesting details and everything you need to know from the release that was on the 6th, 6 days ago, for the new World of Warcraft expansion. I invite you to go back and listen to episode 9 of The Hearth, called Legion Hype, where we cover it there. But until The Hearth episode 10, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.